day and I was doing my normal check-ins for dogs that were on foster when we got a phone call. Thank you for calling Pinal County Animal Care and Controls from a citizen in Nevada that was interested in one of our dogs here.
Oh, he's beautiful. He's a gorgeous dog.
He reminded him of one of his other dogs, which he has experienced working with feral dogs.
And then the name obviously struck me because I'm like, hey, Phil, okay.
He's super, super cute.
And I'm looking at it, it's like 650 miles and it's been a long time since I've been to Phoenix. So I was like, okay. So like, I'm gonna come down. I'm gonna come down and get him.
This is probably my first time that somebody's had come out of state just to see a dog.
I drove out Tuesday morning, the 13 hours.
He came to speak to me in the front office.
What a good boy. I was walking a dog and then I got a call over the radio that somebody wanted to meet our feral dog, Phil. And they asked for me specifically since Phil didn't allow any other handlers.
They told me they really can't get him on the leash, and that was evident right away.
We took him out to the playgroup yard where I did an introduction with his dogs.
I brought my other two dogs down. I brought Vader and Cher down with me to meet with Phil because, you know, we have to make sure that there's some cohesion there.
We want to make sure that it's the best fit for the family and nothing happens once he gets home, especially since he came out of state.
He got along really well with my two dogs right away, so there was no issues there, and I'm like, okay.
He did the adoption paperwork.
They gave me a big crate, a big kennel to put in the back of my truck. Had him in the kennel because I don't know how well I can trust him just being in the back of the truck.
Then they took off towards Vegas.
I drive literally out of the parking lot, just past it. There's a little transformer station there where I noticed that the kennel had got knocked over. So I stopped there and I got him righted and I drove off. I'm driving down this road and there's this driver behind me who's just it's very suspicious, terrible driver, and he keeps following me and he's like trying to come up on me and he's trying to pass me an area. And then he pulls up and goes, your dog, she jumped out of your truck back there. Immediately turn around, go back to where it was at. I go around trying to look for her. I'm trying to find out exactly where she got out. Searched for about an hour. Then I went back to the shelter.
He came back in and he was very worried. He explained to us that one of his personal dogs jumped out of his truck and everybody here immediately jumped up and went outside to help him look for him.
We were looking for maybe about an hour or two. There was quite a bit of staff that wanted to come out on their own time to look for the dog with their personal vehicles. I was not surprised that people were wanting to look for the dog just because we have such a dedicated staff. After a while we were looking, we had to call off the search just so that we could get back to our normal jobs.
We didn't see her anywhere in the field. We had no sight of her. And unfortunately, we did have to go back to work, and we told them that we would keep a good eye out for her.
And I'm devastated. I've had her at that point for almost 7 years. I always promised that she would have a home. I did drive home. I wanted to get Phil back home because I didn't want him to have to stay in the kennel. Because especially with dogs, like when you have dogs with sometimes with behavioral problems like that, being in a kennel is not the best thing for him. So I wanted to get him home. I wanted to get Vader home. I had to go to work really the next day. And I'm driving home, but I'm sobbing, going, I feel like I'm being punished. I feel like I've done something wrong. And I'm like, I feel like I'm abandoning her. And it was a terrible drive home.
It was just a typical morning. I was walking through, I had just gotten here, and I had heard over the radio that a dog was loose out on the road. I ran to the front office. Where's the dog? It was so urgent, and everyone was getting in the cars because it's halfway down the road where the dog is. I am hopeful. They just had eyes on her, so I was like, it has to be Cher. When I got out to this main road, she was running away from the shelter, and I was like, no. So I cut her off with my car, and she just turned right around and she ran against the fence line all the way until she got to the parking lot of the shelter and she ran into the parking lot.
We had volunteers walking dogs. The owner had said that she had some stranger danger, so we were really worried that this gate was open and she was going to be able to run out. So we grabbed the gate and shut it closed as quickly as possible.
The gates were shut, we had her in the corner, And we were just approaching her slowly. We don't know where she was the night before or what she had gone through, so we didn't want to freak her out even more. And we didn't want her to bolt on us. So we went really slow, got on her level, and we just made her feel comfortable with us, and we were able to leash her.
Called the owner, and he was ecstatic. He was so excited.
How is she? Is she injured? Is she okay? And they're like, no, she seems fine. She's just scared. The very next call I made was to one of my coworkers and asking if he could cover my shift for the next day. And by 11 o'clock that day, I was back in the car.
He was ecstatic to see that we got the dog captured. He let us know that he was on his way immediately. He drove all the way down from Nevada again. Once he showed up, he was almost in tears with how joyful he was that he got the dog back. So it was a great day for us, and it was really nice to see her go home.
He was so happy. He had thought that he lost his best friend. And that is something that no one ever wants to go through. And I was just really happy that we were able to do that for him. He came and he took a long timer that had been here for a really long time, and then he ended up losing his dog. So I was just really happy that we were able to help him get his dog back.
The very first set of phone calls, they were knowledgeable about the dog right away. As soon as they brought him up, like, oh yeah, Phil, and they have over 200 dogs. So to be knowledgeable about every single one of your dogs says something about the dedication. I remember Justin, because I interacted with him a lot regarding Phil, and just the knowledge that that young man had, and some of the things that he was saying led me to believe that this is not just a job for him. He really cares about it. Talking with the director, she was just an amazing person. And this is just as I'm adopting Phil. This is before everything happened. But then to come back and just say, hey, my dog got out of my truck. I don't know where she's at. If you see her, and then to have them just jump up, really tells me that this is a group of people that is dedicated to what they're doing. It's not really people coming in just to get that paycheck. They seem to have like real care and concern for what they're doing and for all the animals in their care.
My job is actually a very rewarding job whenever I get to see a dog who's really missing home, and you could tell that they want to go home as quickly as possible because nobody wants to be at the shelter.
That's like the moments that we live for here. We don't get wins every day, but that was a huge win for us.
And with Phil, the way he would end up living there for all that time as well. And it's amazing because I have him now for a little over 2 months, and he's a completely different dog than what I met at the shelter. Completely different. Just giving him that chance and giving him a home has made him into the dog that he should have been. And I think that's what people need to understand, is that the dog you see at the shelter may not be the exact dog that you're going to end up getting. If you can't take him home and give him that chance right away, go back to the shelter, interact with him more, get that dog to learn to start trusting you and to start learning who you are. And you're going to find out that you have an amazing dog.